Is it recording? It is recording. Okay, y'all. This is Cannoli. And Rosie. Back for part 2 of the shenanigans.
Sorry, I'm still trying to recover from the last part.
Alright, so let's go ahead and watch the last part. 3 parts. Sorry, can't talk today. Last 3 parts of this animated story.
It's scary thinking these things.
My family had a cabin deep in the mountains that we enjoyed traveling to every summer. It was surrounded by dense forests that made you feel like you were escaping reality. To get to our cabin, you had to drive along a dirt road that would wind through several other properties, separated by wire fencing and a total of 5 gates. Each gate had a lock that we'd have to unlock to pass through. One particular summer, my fiancé and I traveled to our cabin with our family to enjoy a weekend. We went hiking, fishing in a nearby pond, and 4-wheeling around, trying to spot any wild animal. On the day we were set to leave, my family packed up their belongings and decided to head out earlier than usual. My fiancé and I wanted to have a little bit more alone time, so we decided to leave later that evening. The day went great, and when evening came, we loaded our things into my truck, locked up the cabin, and started to drive back. By this time, the sun had set, and sort of shadowy darkness lurked around us. Because it was going to be more difficult to see, I drove slower than usual, avoiding to run off the road, or worse, hitting something I didn't expect to be on the road. The ride started about as normal as it always did. Every time we approached the gate, I would get out, unlock it, and drive through. Once the truck was past the gate, I'd go back and lock it up and move on to the next one. I asked my fiancé to stay in the truck in case any bears appeared from the bushes. So far, so good, but as I made it to the 4th gate, things changed. This gate was located in a fairly large clearing, making it easier to see the landscape reflected in the moonlight. The clearing, while more visible, almost made me feel less protected, maybe even exposed to any potential threats. Despite this, I convinced myself that there was nothing to be afraid of. I got out, unlocked the gate, and drove through it. However, when I went back to lock it, I noticed a small light about 50 yards up the fence line. I could tell that the light was coming from a flashlight, and I could make out what seemed to be the figure of a man. I stopped for a moment and just watched, but nothing happened. The light and the man remained still. Shrugging it off, I thought maybe it was one of the other property owners. I closed the gate and started to lock it up when I heard a voice crying, "Help me! Help me!" I stopped what I was doing and started walking towards the direction of the flashlight. It was still. I called out to the man, "Hey, is everything all right?" Just then, the flashlight started to move fiercely. In all directions, I could see the figure, this man, who was now racing towards me. He was sprinting like crazy, reminding me of that running scene from the movie Get Out. The person wasn't shouting or making any other noise, just running. As he got closer, I could tell he was dressed in dark clothing and carrying a backpack. Panic finally hit me. I ran back to my truck, jumped in, and sped off. My fiancé asked what was wrong, but I lied to her saying that just something startled me. She went back to staring out the window. We drove about a quarter of a mile before arriving at the final gate. I put the truck in park and hesitated for a moment, looking back down the road from where I had seen the man. It seemed to drag on forever, but after confirming nothing was there, I got out and walked towards the gate, my heart still racing, knowing I was bathing in the light coming from the headlights, and there was nothing but darkness around me. I felt the same feeling of exposure again, but convinced myself that there was nothing to be afraid of. I unlocked the gate, and as I made my way back to the truck, I glanced down the road again. To my horror, The person with the flashlight was once again running down the dirt road straight towards us. This time I conjured up the courage to yell out, "Do you need help?" hoping the man would stop and respond. However, nothing changed. The man just continued sprinting towards us. At this point, alarm bells were going off in my head.
At this point?
I jumped back in the truck and once again sped off, leaving the gate wide open. My fiancée, who could now see the man and the light, asked if we should stop and double check to make sure that he was okay. I told her no. She asked why we were leaving the gate open, and I had no other way than to tell her the truth about the man. I told her that he was the one who scared the crap out of me previously, doing exactly what he was doing now. Her face went white, and it was clear that she understood that this man was following us. I raced down the road, periodically glancing in the rearview mirror. Slowly, the chasing freak with the flashlight began to fade, and we were surrounded by darkness once again. We eventually reached the canyon highway, turned off the dirt road, and headed for home. When we arrived later that night, I called my dad and told him what happened. He said that he had never seen anyone out that late before, especially like that. My dad then spoke to my uncle, who was heading up the next day, and asked him to keep an eye out for anything suspicious, but he didn't see or find anything. To this day, I have no idea or what his intentions were, but I'm glad we didn't stick around to find out.
Oh my gosh. See, this is why I don't understand when, obviously, these are supposedly based off true stories or whatever, but in horror movies, how in the hell is it the non-white people who die first? When they're the ones who make the most logical sense and the, best choices. White people are like,
Who's there?
The
killers probably understand that the white people could probably be saved for last, as probably no white person is going to make it out alive. And they probably go for every other race first, so that then they can make sure that all the sensible people can't say a word.
Oh, that makes sense.
And everyone is doomed.
You know what? That's actually a pretty logical point. You take the challenges out first, make the easier targets the easier targets. Okay, there we go. All right, we got 2 more stories. Okay, get your butt over here, woman. All right, here we go with story number 5. All right.
I can't stop y'all.
I'm a 20-year-old female, and I'm afraid of shadows. So afraid that I never look down while walking in dimly lit surroundings. I can't even stand my own shadow. Weird, right? But I wasn't always like this. I work in a restaurant, and my shift generally runs from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's a hectic job, with not so good pay scale. Now, I get a lot of anxiety attacks because I've been suffering from depression and poor mental health for a long time. But I've somewhat managed to overcome these issues with a lot of mental strength and exercises that help me cope with life. I often set off for long drives to calm my nerves after a tough day at work. It started with a simple drive with my friend, my boyfriend, or sometimes a family member. We'd buy drinks of some sort and drive down the road beside the beach in my town. One late afternoon, I got out of work and decided to go for a drive. I called everyone I knew, but no one was available to come with me, so I went on my own. I was having a panic attack after getting screamed at by a rude customer. I bought a couple of drinks and started to drive to a less traveled route, hoping.
Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and, hit the nail on the head with this one. You're watching this? Don't ever do that. That drink better be water. Water. No alcohol. Okay?
Or coffee.
Or coffee, because as you can see,
or some
she
sort
needs
of
some
boba
caffeine.
tea.
Scarlet.
Or some sort of a soda. Just anything that you can use to actually stay
Okay.
hydrated in such a situation.
Hold on. Before we go off on another tangent, point is, do not drink and drive. That's extremely selfish. I don't want anything to have happened bad to this person. I wouldn't wish bad on anyone unless you're a child predator. Then I hate every molecule of you. But I digress. Do not drink and drive. So irresponsible. So many bad things could happen. Do not ever do that.
There'd be less traffic on that site. I thought halfway to the ride. My mind would mellow down. I was chugging the juice too fast, also, so after 10 minutes, I got the urge to pee. I tried to hold longer till I reached the town or found a fast food chain. But at some point, I was on the verge of losing control, so I had to pull over by a small car park. The car park's one way opened towards the sea, and the other way led to the thin cluster of palm trees scattered over. By this point, it was dark out, and the only lights provided were those pathetic streetlights that barely do much. Half of them were flickering, and the rest of them were broken. The trees were moving with the wind, and I went behind one of them to relieve myself. I was doing my business when I heard a noise behind me. I looked back and saw a moving shadow of some sort behind the tree that was closest to me. It was bobbing down and then up, repeating this before slowly moving to the next tree and doing the same. I quickly stood up, and this realization hit me. My car was at some distance, and the shadow was getting closer each second. I was watching the shadow like a timid rabbit, unsure what to think of it. I slowly started to walk back to my car when the street light hit the shadow. The first thing I noticed was a very scrawny and somewhat skeleton-like figure. Oh my God! Is that a ghost? This is the first thought that came into my mind, but no. The owner of the shadow slowly peeked behind the third tree, and it was an old man. He had 3-4 hairs on his massive wrinkly head, and his eyes, damn, those creepy, wide eyes. His body wasn't in complete control, so he kept twitching every 5 seconds. He had no shirt on, and I could only see his upper body. His bony fingers had dirt-filled nails, as if he dug the ground every day. I could feel cold sweat rushing down my spine as he watched me and I watched him. We both weren't blinking since our eyes met. Suddenly, he smiled, and it was the worst smile anyone had ever given me. Most of his teeth have fallen out. The rest was dirty and had started to rot. The wind was so heavy that it brought the old man's foul odor to my nose. I kid you not, he smelled like a goat. A goat straight from Satan's firm. You could say that a sane person would have gotten out of there fast.
You think?
But as I said above, I struggled with mental health and had been in the middle of an anxiety attack, so my brain took time to function under stress. I was not in the right mindset at all.
In those kinds of situations,
That's true.
you want to
yeah.
run, but you
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
That's
you're
an
right.
exception.
Yes,
You can't
there's the
blame
whole
the person
fight or
for that
flight
one.
thing. And unfortunately, I've been in situations myself where I would think that my fight or flight instincts would have went and I just froze. So I definitely get that to a point, but I'm sorry. As high as my anxiety is, like, it's really bad. PTSD and everything. If I see a shadow, especially when I'm trying to do something as intimate as pee in privacy, yeah, I'm not freezing. I can promise you I ain't freezing. I'm running to my damn car, and God help that old man if he catches up to me. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Somebody come get your somebody come get your G-Paw. He was about to get all the way up. Like, oh my word.
Eventually, I broke free from the frozen state and ran to my car. When I closed the car door, I found the man still smiling at me. I could hear his low chuckle, like he was enjoying seeing me all freaked out. The fact that he didn't chase me messed up with my head even more. You want to know why? Because I figured out he was just there watching me doing my business. And I'm 200% sure that he had eyes on me the entire time I relieved myself. This scared the hell out of me, and I surely haven't gone for a drive on my own since.
Well, at least you did one thing smart. Jesus. Oh my god.
Hello.
I was starting to get mad.
This is Trisha from Mumbai, India. This incident happened right after my 18th birthday. One night, I was scrolling through Facebook, lying on my bed, when a text popped up in my messenger. It was from a total stranger. Like always, I ignored it. But then he kept on texting until I responded. He said his name was Andy. He was 24 at the time and worked as a photographer. We chatted briefly about normal stuff, and then he started telling me that he could see me. I obviously thought he was kidding, so I brushed it off. A few minutes later, he started to be really creepy. He went on to say where I was sitting, what I was wearing. Mother Freaker even described my room.
Oh, hell no.
It scared me because I had just moved out and was living on my own in a studio apartment. I immediately blocked him and checked my windows and doors just to be on the safe side. And as you can guess, sleep hardly came that night. Cut to next week. I again got a text from Andy. This time, he was using a different account. I was about to block him when he told me that my boyfriend was cheating on me. I was shocked because I hadn't posted anything about my relationship on social media. Also, I hadn't told anyone. I ignored his messages once again, but eventually, I found out that my boyfriend was indeed cheating on me with a girl from his neighborhood. This made me trust Andy. However, when I asked how he knew about my BF, he said, I've got special powers. That he was a prophet of God and could sense evil people.
False prophet.
Maybe it
False
was my
prophet.
depressed mind, suffering from a terrible breakup, that made me cling to Andy, even though he was extremely weird. Slowly, Andy started brainwashing me against my friends and family. My grades suffered as I was in my second year of college. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. The negativity that he sowed in me kept eating me alive. We had a huge fight, and I blocked him for good. That night, I was studying in my room when I felt eyes on me, like someone was watching me from a secret hiding place. I took a quick scan of my room when suddenly the power went out. I switched on the flashlight on my phone and was looking for a candle when a flash took place in my room. Like someone took a picture of me with a photography camera. I quickly turned my head to the window and saw a guy sitting on a nearby tree branch. It was dark, so all I could see was his silhouette. But then I slowly pointed my phone's flashlight towards the window. Under the dim, fainting light, I saw a middle-aged man with a huge grin just watching me. He waved at me as our eyes met, and then continued clicking pictures of me. He had no fear of being seen. Instead, he enjoyed seeing the terror in my eyes. I screamed and ran to the washroom, which felt like the only safe place to hide from this creepy man's eyes. I called up my parents who lived in another city. My dad told me to call the police until they arrived at my house. But when the police came and searched the area, they found no one. My landlord also reported to the cops that someone broke into the electric shaft of the building and messed up the wires, resulting in a power cut. I started getting random texts from numbers, and I was sure that they were from Andy, or whatever his real name was. The middle-aged man said he saw me on my way home from university and fell in love with me. He even asked me to marry. My depression worsened by then, so I went to live with my parents. My dad filed an FIR against this man, but due to his fake profiles and not enough info, the police couldn't track him down.
I gotta say, I've had real life experiences with a genuine stalker when I was about same age as Rose, and that shiitake is one of the scariest things that I've ever experienced in my life. This dude happened to be an old friend of my older sister and wanted to date me, but I was dating someone else, and he didn't like that very much. And even after he got a new girlfriend, he got his new girlfriend to start bothering me. They would follow me home every day after school. They would follow me to school, from school. Anytime I was out in town, they were somehow always there. And the last straw was that he actually tried to run me over when I was walking home one day after school with my little sister. And we were finally, once that happened, able to get a protection order from him. Mind you, at the time I was 16 and this dude was almost 19. So yeah, it was this shiitake is very scary, especially for a young teenage girl. Like, people get crazy up in here, man.
I deactivated my social media accounts and also changed my number to make sure he didn't find me ever again. I didn't see him after that, and I somehow finished college staying at my aunt's place. I almost forgot about these, but then one day, I upon my old Facebook account. 10 to 15 texts popped up in my messenger from different accounts. I quickly blocked all of them, and while doing this, I also ended up reading them as well. Most of them were about how much the man misses me and loves me. But there was this one last text that he sent that still gives me goosebumps when I think about it. It read, "Roses are red, violets are blue. If you ever feel alone, I'm always watching you."
Oh, oh my gosh. Oh, gosh, good Lord, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was crazy. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. The crazy shiitake that girls have to go through due to creepers. I'm not even gonna make a tangent about like making it sound like girls don't do some crazy stalkerish-ish too, because they definitely do. My brother's had a couple of them, but good Lord, oh my gosh. Baby girl, you got anything you want to say before I turn this off? I guess not. All right.
Still processing.
I guess we'll catch you in the next one.